Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repeat Ron, and today we're going to be doing another tier list of Deep Rock Galactic Overclocks. This time we're going to be doing it on the Corrosive Sludge Pump, and we're going to be talking about all of their overclocks. As you can see, we have a bunch of overclocks here, but we're only going to be talking about the sludge pumps for right now. Then we'll be talking about the drillers overclocks altogether that they have right now. Just like I did with my engineer's guide, let me kind of run down what the tiers are, at least for me, and then we start the video by saying that this is all my own opinion. So if you have a different opinion, awesome. For me, S tier is pretty much anything that's broken, anything that's overpowered, overtuned, anything like that. Kind of self-explanatory. A tier is all the really good overclocks, no real downsides to them. Maybe not quite S tier, but they're solid in their own way. B tier, also pretty solid. May be okay in most situations. You're going to see a lot of like clean overclocks in like the B and C tier because most of them are pretty good. They're better than average. C tier is pretty average or something that you have to build specifically for, at least in my opinion. So something that's very specialized but can be good, but you have to, kind of go out of your way to make it good, or something that's just kind of okay. Something that I would rather have than no overclock for the gun. And then D tier is kind of the overclocks that I wish would get buffed, that need some more love. There's not too many of them in the game, but we'll talk about the ones that do go down there at some point. So our very first overclock is the AG mixture. The AG mixture gives you 15% more velocity with your shots, which is pretty useful, and your shots are less affected by gravity than normal. This makes it so the goo fragments that hit the walls and stuff that drip down will drip down a little bit slower, which can be kind of useful for flying things. They might fly through it, they might get hit, as well as it makes it so you don't need to lob your shot as much as you normally would. You can fire fairly straight. It's more of a gradual drop than an immediate one, like how the sludge pump initially works. So this one's pretty decent. You can use it with anything. I would rather have this overclock than not have an overclock, but I would also say that this one's not one of the most powerful overclocks in the game. It doesn't really give you a whole lot more for the sludge pump. It's just kind of a nice addition to it. And for that, I think I'm going to put this one into C tier. It's on the high end of C tier, bordering on B tier for me. This was the very first overclock that I got for, I think, actually any of the new weapons, and I used it quite a bit. And I wasn't ever disappointed with it, but some of the other overclocks are better for it, I would say. So this one, I feel like it's okay. Next up, our other clean overclock is the Hydrogen Ion Additive. This one increases your corrosive damage over time effect on your puddles, as well as it increases the slow on your puddles by a little bit. That can be used pretty much with any of the builds that you would like to use with the sludge pump. It works with all of them. It's real handy to slow things down. You do nice damage over time. There's really nothing to complain about. It isn't real insane though, I would say. I think the slowdown is okay, especially if you don't want to go all slow down with the corrosive sludge pump and maybe you wanted to go for some more damage. Then it works. And I'd probably put this one up in a B tier. I think it's pretty solid. I liked it. I like it more than the AG mixture. All right, our next one is Dispenser Compound. Dispenser Compound gives us more charged fragments and more fragment damage, but less charged area damage. So this one is better for damage over time and for status effects, which is great because that's essentially what the Corrosive Sludge Pump does. It does status effects extremely well. You can stack all of the slowdown on this one and just all the fragments that you want, as well as bigger fragments. And you can make things go really, really slow and just apply a whole lot of status effect, as well as a lot of damage over time to everything. You can take down hordes incredibly quick with this. It's great for hitting pretty much anything with. It's really good in a team, though. That's where this one really shines. By yourself, it's still a pretty solid overclock, I would say. But in a team, it can be really good, especially if you want to hold up in a particular area. Maybe you have an engineer that built a roof, and then you just throw this on the ground, and you're pretty much set. Nothing's going to get in there. So Dispenser Compound, I'm going to say is a solid A tier. I like it. Again, I don't think it's overpowered or anything. I don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think it's S tier. It's just a real solid overclock, and I really enjoy it. And then our next overclock is Volatile Impact Mixture. This one is kind of interesting. I really thought I would hate this one when I first read it, because this one gives you a little bit more area damage, a little bit more charge shot damage, but you lose out on corrosive damage duration, and you also lose out on puddle life duration. So your acid effect is not eating things as quickly, your puddles are not staying around as long, but you're doing more direct damage, which for me it seemed like this weapon was very much a supportive weapon, and something like Dispenser Compound was going to be really good. But this one I really enjoyed. This one is probably the most ammo efficient out of your weapons, out of your overclocks, potentially. It depends, because you could potentially get even more from Dispenser Compound. It depends on how big a horde you're fighting, how you're fighting them, everything like that. But if you do build this in a particular way, you can one-shot grunts with it. It will take a little bit of time for them to die from the acid, but it only takes one shot, and that's not a charge shot. And your charge shots are pretty great for crowds, killing them very fast. This also gives you more damage against single large targets. So if you want to kill Praetorians, this works a little bit better than something like Dispenser Compound. This one I really enjoyed playing solo, and I found it pretty useful in teams too. This one I would also put up into A tier. This one is not probably as good as Dispenser Compound though. Dispenser Compound is kind of basic, but it does highlight all of the advantages that the Sludge Pump has. This one is just probably the most ammo efficient one. Maybe, it depends on the situation. And then we have our two unstable overclocks. First one is Sludge Blast, which Sludge Blast makes it so your Sludge Pump becomes a shotgun, which sounds pretty cool. Unfortunately, it has a lot of really bad side effects to it. It lowers your ammo, lowers your magazine count, makes you have a longer reload, your splash damage is nerfed, your charge time takes longer. All of that's pretty bad. The only real thing that you get with this is faster moving projectiles. And this is kind of okay if you intend on only using it for big things, or if you only shoot it into crowds and you want to go with a all ammo secondary. Unfortunately, Drilla doesn't really have a good all ammo secondary. The best you have is probably the Sabata, going with oversized magazines and stuff like that. And even then, you're probably still going to be running out of bullets. It's just not very ammo efficient. Even if you run all ammo efficiency, it's still not that great. On Dreadnought missions, it's okay. It does decent damage, but you could go with more high damage overclocks for that, especially with your other weapons like your flamethrower or your cryo cannon can especially do more damage. This one, it does decent damage per second, I'll say that. It can, but this one I feel like it should really get buffed. I'd put this one into D tier, which kind of saddens me because the thought of an acid shotgun is really cool, but it shouldn't come with this many downsides. And then we've got our Goo Bomber Special, which Goo Bomber Special is an interesting one. This one makes it so your charge shots do more fragment damage and you get more fragment count. You also have longer puddle duration, but your shots don't impact and splash like they normally do when you hit a solid surface. So you want to be lobbing this across the battlefield more or less, creating a goo line that will slow everything, damage everything that walks through it. And for that, it can be really good. The way that I found the best to use this is kind of set up a triangle or a square type formation to where you can just keep kind of walking around that, or to be using it when you're running forward or backward, causing enemies just to walk all the way through it when they're trying to get to you. You can stack up a good amount of damage with this. It can slow. You can build this in quite a few different ways, and all of them work fairly well, I would say. Goo Bomber Special is all around pretty solid. I would say that this one is also A tier. I think I'd put it above the Volatile Impact, but below Dispenser Compound. I feel like Dispenser Compound, it feels very similar to Goo Bomber Special, but it feels a little bit more versatile, I guess. At least for the team. If you're solo, then yeah, Goo Bomber Special's probably better. Then Volatile is probably the best. No S tiers here for the Sludge Pump, and unfortunately one D tier, which is kind of sad to see, but I think it does belong there. I really think that one does need to be buffed, because it's just not a huge improvement for the Sludge Pump at the moment. It's kind of a detriment on most missions. So this is where I'd put all the overclocks for the Corrosive Sludge Pump. Tell me your thoughts down below and what builds you use with these and which ones are your favorite, because even though I would say Sludge Blast is not that great, it probably is one of my favorite though, because it is kind of cool. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. Thanks. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!